Hi, Mike.
Hello.
So, while others are joining, did you have a chance to talk to some of the folks at AIF, AAIF? Yeah.
No, they're not ready to talk yet. So
Mhm.
I have, as you've seen, I published the article on the blog post. And also, if you look at
Mhm.
the TAC thing, the TAC Slack, there's a NIST RFI which has been put out, which we're going to be responding to. So I'm working on that. I'm not sure it's really at the level that you're interested in, but just so you're aware of it, really.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't see that in Slack, so
Yeah.
I will check. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool. Thanks.
it's on the tax. Like I only put it there about an hour and hour or two ago.
Ah,
So
okay, okay,
yeah,
sure.
it's fairly recent. Yeah,
Okay,
less than two
cool.
hours ago.
Sure. Thanks. That would be
I hope to have
useful.
a draft out in 2 days' time. I honestly don't think it's going to be the level that this group is interested in, but I want to make sure that we cover that if there's anything we haven't covered at the high level, we do. So as I said, I should have something out for folks to look at in the next 48 hours or so.
Cool. Thanks.
Mark, I was speaking to your mate, Mr. Guzman, yesterday.
Oh yeah, Michael's good people.
Yes, we had a very good chat. Him and Sol Cates talking about the standards and standards and regs and standards six. So that was a good initial conversation.
You will probably wait for a couple more minutes for others to join. Feel free to add your name to the meeting minutes.
Yeah, while others are joining, so there was a request for funding. So I see Thomas, and I assume that you have taken over from Keith. So it's just this weekend, so it would be nice if, and Jim, I see as well. So please have a look at that.
So we were blocked. Well, we were checking with the TAC that the funding for 2026 was still available for the SIG, and that took a bit of time. But now we are confident that we can have the usual 2K US dollar budget for 2026, and therefore we can approve the budget request, the funding request.
Okay, cool. Thanks very much.
Okay, we are 4 minutes in. I guess we should go ahead and get started. Our topic today is Usama's Agentic AI project. Usama, you want to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I will. So my plan is to kind of quickly recap what we did or what we discussed in the last two meetings. And then I would hope I see at least three chairs already. And a few folks have already given out some feedback. So probably we can finalize it today. That's my hope. Uh, so hopefully you see the screen. I need to move things down to. So do you see the slides?
Yes, we.
Okay, great. So I can also turn this on and move this off. Right. Yeah, so this we talked about, as I said, I will try to recap very quickly. We had a lot of discussion around this in the last two meetings, and try to wrap it up. This was the figure where we spent most of the time in the last meeting. And just as a quick recap, there are four main components of the approach. One being the system model, which comparing to the current projects that the SIG has, we had formalization for Intel TDX, we had it for ARM CCA, but we didn't have any combination, which is to say, if I'm doing something like agentic AI, which states here as an example use case, we had some discussion there. I want to make it clear that's a use case. That's more generically, I'm talking about something which has dynamic workloads, which are changing at the runtime. That's something that I'm interested in, and it's not something that we covered in these two formalizations that we had before. We didn't have really a system model, so to say, a complete formalization of that. So it was just what the primitives, remote attestation primitives that the two TEs provide. And now what we have is a system model as a starting point, of course, with discussions, and after adoption, it will be refined over the time as other projects were. Second part was we had a bit of discussion here as well. We need to bind remote attestation to the underlying TLS channel, otherwise it's useless. It can be relayed over to any entity, and then you can get a good evidence which doesn't make any sense or is useless, just gives you a false sense of security. We had a look at some practical implementations which were known to us. I have a point to discuss if someone knows anything other than that, which is to say intra-handshake attestation implementations. We looked at that, we formalized it as a protocol, made the formal model, and on this side, as I said, this one as a use case for dynamic workloads, multiple of them cooperating with each other and communicating with each other. So that's something the SIG doesn't have at all. And from that, we have the security goals, which are like correlation properties. How the evidence should be correlated to the underlying TLS channel is something we haven't yet explored under a specific threat model and with different binding levels that I will quickly recap. And we have done some initial formal analysis, which has revealed relay attacks, which I will show you. As I quickly showed last time, we can have some more discussion if required. And based on that, we propose some mitigations, which is basically the whole project, which is the post-handshake part. So that's the complete picture. I hope we had a lot of discussion there. So what I want to do or focus on more is this part. I expanded it a little bit more. We did further analysis. So the first four parts are, first of all, this slide is showing the potential mechanisms for binding. And here binding means that how this remote attestation of these is related to the underlying TLS protocol, the channel between the server and the client. And analysis that we have currently is only for server as a tester. So whatever I'm claiming in this presentation is only valid under that case. We haven't analyzed client as a tester, but our hope is that it's going to be similar. There is some asymmetry, which I will also show you in one of the slides, but I expect that the slides, that the results for the other way around would be the same. But anyway, so since this is one of the major use cases, so that's really important. So the first four are showing the binding materials, the base binding materials, if you want to call it, and the rest three are showing the combinations. That is to say, I combine one or more of two or more of those basic ones in order to get a compound binding material, which is here summarized in notations like client TLS nonce, which is the one which the client sends as part of the standard TLS, nothing to do with attestation. So kind of reusing the TLS nonce for the purposes of attestation. Second one, it uses an explicit attestation nonce. And third one, the early exporter is provided by the TLS RFC 8446 standard, nothing changes here. Server's public key, that is the one which the server has generated within the virtual machine, let's say the confidential virtual machine. or it has been provisioned from the outside to the virtual machine where there are problems. I will show you that part. And then the combinations, we combine basically this with, we take the nonce always. There is a reason for that. So we did not exhaustively explore all the possible combinations because we believe that the nonce is really essential for replay attacks. So if you put it out, have other combinations, you will always have replay attacks possible. That's why we take this as a common thing and put out other possible combinations which made sense to us or which we found somewhere being used at least. So this makes no sense, but we still put it because it was in one of the drafts. So this nonce can be combined with the public key, and then all of those can also be combined. And here I have written the mapping over to the table was growing big. So I have here separately, Meta uses option number 1, Edgeless and Cocos AI use number 6. This draft, as I said, uses or proposed number 5. And what I want to discuss is I couldn't cleanly find out which one it is. I believe it is number 6. But this is one point for discussion that I think Thomas is in the call, so probably he can confirm if this is the case for the attested TLS proof of concept. That's an adopted project of the SIG.
What is the question, Usama?
So the question is that which of those binders are used in this specific implementation of attested TLS in the CCC SIG, this one. Is it number 6? That's what we believe.
I think it should be 6.
Okay, thanks. And another point for discussion is if someone knows any other useful binding material or a combination, I mean, other than these 4 basic ones and some combination of the basic within the seat working group charter, because the charter limits no changes in the TLS protocol. Yeah, that's something up for discussion that I would like to have opinions on if someone has anything that we might have missed or we might not have thought about.
Hey, Usama, how are you?
Hi,
I have
I'm
a quick,
good.
hey, I'm sorry if I missed this earlier.
Mhm.
Could you please explain a little bit about what is server as a tester? My understanding is a tester is a separate entity that provides evidence. For example, a CPU or a GPU or a TPM that generates the evidence. What do you
Mhm.
mean by server as a tester?
Right. So this is something to do with the combination of, I don't have the slide with me, but it goes back to very early discussions, like maybe 2 years ago or something like that. Anyway, so we have 2 things, which is the TLS protocol and the, let's say, the remote attestation protocol. And both have their own entities or the roles, if you want to call it. TLS has client and server. Remote attestation RFC 9334 has attester, verifier, relying party. I combine these verifier and relying party into one to say there are 2 entities now, the attester and the verifying relying party. And with that, I have now 2 entities for both. And with these 2, I can have 4 combinations, actually 2 combinations, and then the mutual thing, which is to say I could have server from TLS as attester, and I could have the client from TLS as the attester. And when server is the attester, the client will be the verifying relying party, and the other way around for the client as a tester. Then the server will be the verifying relying party. And if then the case is that if I have both, then that is mutual attestation when both are attester as well as verifying relying parties. To keep complexity low, I do not divide verifier and relying party into separate roles. I just keep them or consider an implementation which is combining both, like most implementations are actually having those. So from a formal perspective, it's easier to reason about that rather than having them separate. So does it answer your question or clarify what I mean by, so this is when I say server as a tester, it means I'm taking TLS server as RATS attester.
Oh, okay, thank you. So that server refers to TLS server. Okay. And in the
Yeah.
case of TLS, it's you're establishing it between two peers, right? So who is the server in that case? So the attester becomes the server in the model you're talking about?
Yes, that's correct. So
Okay.
attester server, TLS server is acting as the attester, and client is acting as the verifying relying party from attestation perspective.
Makes sense now. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or any thoughts on this combination specifically, or any underbinding material? Okay, if not, then I can continue. For this, we had a lot of discussion and then settled it down via mailing list, which is to say, the problem in intra handshake attestation is that I could have, so first of all, I could have, we defined like 3 levels of binding, which are unique to a connection. The first one is GXY, which is the shared common secret between the client and the server. So this might give you, Jack, so this might give you more intuition of what I meant by, actually, I should have come to this slide to explain you. Anyway, so this is the TLS role, server as acting as the remote attestation attester and client acting as the remote attestation role of verifying relying party. And they have both this initial knowledge to start with. And the real problem with the intra handshake is that we need to bind, first of all, the evidence to the TLS connection. So to avoid relay attack. And what does it mean to have that TLS connection? That can be identified via 3 levels, 3 unique keys in the TLS key schedule. And that is section 7.5 of RFC 8446, which states the key schedule. Partly it's scattered around in different all over the RFC, but that's the main thing where it's explained. So GXY is the shared secret, and level 2 is representing the handshake traffic secret of the client, from which one can derive this client write key for the handshake. And the third level is the application traffic secret, which includes all combinations, all contributions up to this log finished, server finished, sorry. And then this client write key is derived with which this secret will be encrypted. That is, the client will encrypt its secret at the end of the connection via this key. And this is really the point. So I want to make 2 quick reminders on this point. Number 1, HTSC, handshake traffic secret for the client, is irrelevant for security goals. What I did is, to prove this, I removed all of this encryption and all the security goals remain the same. If I have this encryption over handshake messages or not makes no difference. For example, specifically for this secret was used to encrypt this finished message from the client. It doesn't matter whether I encrypt this message or not from a security perspective, not from a privacy perspective. So it's containing a HMAC over all the handshake transcript until now, and I don't need really to encrypt that HMAC. HMAC is already protecting all of the integrity of the handshake transcript. So it's completely irrelevant for the security goals to encrypt this message, number 1. And number 2 point is a bit subtle, which is to say, high-level argument here is, if I bind to something with this level, I don't have the server authenticated at this point in time. And that's where this comes in. Like, this part is it's only saying to the client that, hey, there is somebody in the world with which I have exchanged the key, and I and that party have this key, which nobody other than us have. Client doesn't yet know who that party is with which it has exchanged that key. That could very much be the attacker in between. So this point really is insufficient because none of the authentication part has even started. And that's my high-level argument for saying that intra-handshake doing binding with this key is really useless because its client doesn't know yet who is the entity that I am talking to. It's not yet authenticated, and that evidence which will come out of this will be pretty much useless. The thing to see is that the client with after all of this will then encrypt its secret with this. From relevance perspective, it's relevant. And at this point in time, the server is fully authenticated. I as client know exactly who I'm talking to. I have obtained its certificate. It has provided me a proof of possession of that key, and it has confirmed me that the HMAC matches with which entity I was doing this connection. And exporting that would mean that I really know which entity I was talking to. So that's a subtle point to understand that without any formal reasoning, I think that's clear from this figure that without authentication, that evidence that will be generated via binding to this will really be insufficient, even if I include main secret. That's this handshake transcript is the main thing which is capturing what's going on in this connection, and not the secret from the other side. Like adding even the main secret doesn't help at all. So unless there are any questions on this or comments, I will proceed with the rest then.
So, Osama, sorry, I may be missing something here. So when is the server, when is the attestation verified in this in this graph?
So the attestation evidence will be appraised at this point in time, at after 2A, when it will obtain the evidence. If you are talking about intra-handshake, that's what I was explaining. So the
Okay.
evidence will be part of this certificate extension, and after 2A, the client will appraise this evidence.
Okay, so the attestation of the server is included in the certificate extension in
Right.
okay.
So I'm still talking about, so the presentation is still about intra-handshake, except the last slide where I will pitch the post-handshake. So all of this will mean that I will always be talking about certificate extension, evidence being sent as extension and verified here. And
Okay,
if it's the other way around, then it will have certificate verify. The client will have additional 2 messages, and client will also send its certificate, its evidence in the certificate extension.
okay, makes sense.
Thanks.
I see Marcus
Hey.
has
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
Hi, Osama.
Hi.
You just remarked in like the last half sentence that mixing in the TLS main secret is also not helping. Remind me, like, is the TLS main secret, is that the master secret? And
Yeah.
Follow up, why does that not help if any of the other secrets are derived from that?
Okay, so let me try to clarify first the first point. It's a kind of a synonym, but RFC 8446 BIS, which is around in the publication queue, that renames RFC 8446 master secret to main secret. So they are really the same. And that's why I'm using main secret instead of master secret, because that's been approved by the TLS working group. That's in the publication queue, so it will soon become effective. Okay, and your second question was, why does the main secret not help? The answer to that is from a key schedule derivation perspective, it has the same entropy as the handshake secret. It doesn't add any randomness to the key schedule. It's the input for the I forgot what that function is, but I have a document where I can look it up. So I think it's HKDF, or let me just quickly scroll down to just a moment. 446 is
Okay, but to just not stall this for too long, but what I understood is the entropy is not both-sided, and thus you still have the possibility of relay attacks because you could just like do the same handshake with somebody else, right?
I'm not still talking about the relay attacks. I have figures for talking about relay attacks. What I was trying to say here is that the input for main secret is here 0. So it doesn't add any entropy, whether you derive secret from here or here. It makes no difference. What makes real difference is that I need to have these messages which are important for authentication. So when I was pointing to saying main secret doesn't help, it was because of the reason that this and this secret have the same entropy because of the input coming from this input is actually not a secret. This is no entropy. This is just 0 constant.
Okay, understood. Thanks.
For the relay attacks, I have figures, so I will come to that. I need to be a bit fast. Okay. Okay, so that's exactly the figure for the relay attack. So I was talking about various mechanisms in the table, and that's the first one of those, which is that, let's say, the client uses the TLS nonce as the binding mechanism. And what the adversary can do is simply relate over to a genuine AI agent, again, as an example. So this is the server from TLS perspective. This is the client. From a remote attestation perspective, this is the attester. This is the verifying relying party. And what happens is that it can simply relate over, get a genuine evidence, which matches what the verifying relying party wants, and then what will happen is that it will establish connection with this adversary rather than the actual intended AI agent or the server. So that's the first mechanism. And the reason I'm showing only one is that the same thing happens whether I have the attestation nonce, it can still relate. Whether I use also from the table early exporters, it can still relay those. So there is no binding at all. The key takeaway here is that these binders, the first 3 binders, actually have no binding at all to the server at all. So there is no contribution coming from the server itself. This X0, as you see, also contains only the client hello. There is no contribution whatsoever from server hello or anything coming from the server side. It's all clients. Whatever I'm sending, so adversary can just forward it, get back a good evidence and present as its own evidence. So nothing stops in the protocol. But what is interesting to see is that the fourth mechanism, which is the public key of the server, so that's something coming from the server now. And what can happen is that if that is leaked by some means, for example, let's say bad RAM or wiretap.fail, te.fail, things like that, and adversary can then still do all these attacks. The protocol does not help at all, which is to say adversary will get this key, establish a connection, get an evidence and a certificate, and use that certificate and use this key to do the certificate verify signature. And with that, it can pretend to be doing all the things that the actual genuine AI agent would be doing. And then it will have an attested channel between verifying relying party and the adversary again. So the same attack, it believes it talks to a genuine AI agent while it does not actually in reality. Right, so this we had a quick look just as a reminder. There is a need for implementation guidance, which unfortunately in the SIG we haven't produced. And going through this kind of preliminary work for this project, it came to me and also via Coco's AI discussion in the Slack that I also quickly pointed out last time. So they claimed that, hey, we have the best possible implementation of the tested TLS protocol in the world. And when I actually looked into it, I think it's the worst of all. Anyway, I'm not criticizing too much on them, but this is to say that people are marketing a lot and the actual solutions are not so good. And all of them roughly fall in one of the categories that I have here shown on this slide. For example, they use number 6, which we have proved that it has also the same problem of relay attack. It doesn't solve any problem. Other than that, they also like kind of implementation issues. As I mentioned, SNI, the server name indication, is for the host name. They use it for the conveyance of nonce. And contrast has now changed to ALPN, application level protocol name, which is for different purposes, and it's not suitable for use for conveyance of nonce. And as I mentioned, also like TLS proof of concept, there has been no update for 3 years. And thinking as an implementer, I'm left with no guidance. And this is not something I would not be expecting. So that is to say, if we provide no guidance, people don't know like how to use these kind of complicated protocol things by themselves. It's really requires a knowledge of the key schedule of the TLS. It requires knowledge of how the remote attestation technology is working. And all of these mechanisms are quite complicated, and it requires a lot of, let's say, deep thought or expertise in order to reach some suitable conclusion and a suitable protocol. Anyway, so what I want to discuss here specifically is whether there is any other intra-handshake implementation that we might have missed and is not mentioned. We are currently aware of these 4, Meta's AI, Contrast, Coco's AI, and Tested TLS proof of concept, and others are probably using this in probably some variations, but I would like to know if somebody knows specifically any implementation, maybe from tag projects or something like that. But I would be interested in exploring if someone else is using intra handshake. Okay, I don't hear anybody, so I will continue. So if something just comes to your mind afterwards, please let me know via email on the list. So based on all this, what we are proposing is post-handshake attestation. And just as a quick reminder of the issue that's been posted, we have this starting point specification, which for this specific project, I would like to be non-binding, which means that this is a starting point. It's not necessary that this specific specification is the one that I will deliver as a proponent. So it might change. It might be the case that I come up with some new idea and I put it as a separate draft, let's say. But what I'm scoping to is post-handshake attestation, because we have fully explored pre-handshake, we have fully explored intra-handshake. So the scope I will limit will not be this specific specification, rather something within post-handshake. And the detailed rationale for that has been circulated in the mailing list. People have kindly given some feedback. Thanks a lot to all those who have given feedback, and I can walk through that if required very, very quickly. And I also want to say that there are real implementers who have interest with real use cases as opposed to just something that I have cooked up. So it's not really my own use cases. So they have their running production systems. For example, Edgeless system, Marcus is in the call, and Ayub has also expressed interest in implementing this. He already has one implementation, which he's cleaning up, and would be then moving to follow the standard. Flashport Spec Jones is already implementing this specific specification, and Flashport's already committed to it. GF4G and Elixir. So Powell is developing another implementation of that. So we have quite a variety of possible implementations, uh, as well as interest. And of course, you can cooperate with one of those or develop your own implementation or come up with ideas. That's the whole project idea, that we can come up with something which is secure, which is implementable, and people can use rather than just trying out or ruling their own cryptography. And that's pretty much it what I have. I would quickly like to.
I think Greg has.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Post handshake attestation. So, in what's transpiring now, or the scope of what you're looking at, how specifically does this depend upon an existing TLS connection, or can this, be can this be layered on top of other mechanisms, right? Because once at the very simplistic perspective, yeah, probably too simplistic, but it seems like this is building a protocol between two parties that can communicate and then do an attested secure communication on top of that. So how much does this depend upon, or is it required to depend upon TLS? And if it's required to depend upon TLS, is there any value to consider tweaking the requirements or design so that it could be used to securely communicate or share secrets between two parties, one being attested or what have you, that doesn't depend on TLS, like just exchange messages, or perhaps even built on top of another channel.
Okay,
Does
so
that make
let me
any
try
sense?
to. Yeah, sure. Let me try to summarize it. So I think what you are trying to ask is whether it is specific to TLS protocol compared to, let's say, noise protocol or other protocols. Is this a good summary of your question?
I mean, are you using, a TLS channel is a way to move information between two parties, and it has some additional qualities, like it is, it is secured through the mechanisms that it uses. Now we're saying, okay, after this, so is what's happening here depend upon the security of the channel, and then puts more security on for attestation, or could it just be essentially layered on top of an insecure communication channel? And in which case, then it can be used for more than just TLS connections, perhaps just plain TCP connections, or perhaps exchange email messages, or who knows what.
Okay, I would say it would need some secure channel to provide it security. That could be TLS, but not necessarily TLS. It could be noise protocol, for example. Any protocol which provides you some kind of exporters from the channel. For example, TLS is one of those. Any protocol which is providing something like this would be applicable, and that's one strength, I think, which I probably mentioned somewhere. That general. So this is the section which is kind of explaining it, and thanks to Marcus, he mentioned this requirement, which is to say that if I have any protocol, it would be a general solution. So you still need to have a secure solution. I don't think it will work just on top of TCP. I need to have some secure protocol from which I can export. And the real thing is that that protocol remains unchanged. I do a one-time effort to prove this security, that any secure channel, let's say taking TLS as an example, exporting it and doing the attestation on top of that channel. So I need
Is
a
there
secure
is
channel.
Is there additional key created on top of like the TLS channel that's used, that's attested? I mean, is the post handshake going to attest like a key that's used in the secure channel, or is the post handshake going to attest a new key that's used for securely sharing the information between the two parties? It seems like if it's a new key, then it doesn't matter the underlying channel, whether it's secure or not, keys or not. But
So the security argument is based on that key, which will be exported from and derived from this key. And that basically provides you the protection that, or gives the client the guarantee that the endpoint I was talking to, which is now talking to me over this channel, is the same that I have authenticated at the TLS layer. So, I mean, the key will be derived from this specific key. I have also the key derivation. If you want, I can show you quickly.
No, that's, I mean, I'm not tracking all the details, and that's okay. I think what you're saying is as you understand it, and I'll totally accept it. It is built on top of a channel that has some properties that are not just generic, right? It's built on some security properties of the channel. It may be TLS or noise or what have you, but there's some requirements for the channel, has some extensibility, point binding, or whatever you call it. So, and
Right.
that answers my question. I don't have to understand all the detailed reasons why, but if you say that's so, then I accept it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Any other
think Mark
questions or
is
thoughts?
next.
Yeah, just one sentence about Greg's question, because I think I
Yeah.
know the answer that you're looking for. Is the property that the channel has to be useful in this scenario is that it's authenticated. So if you have an authenticated channel that also allows something like these exporters, then you can build the post key handshake on top of that. You could also do that without authentication and just use any secret, but then you would not get these binding properties that Usama is about.
So like
maybe one question.
authentication in terms of like the DNS name associated with the TLS certificate, that sort of authentication,
Yes.
or
a noise public key that you happen to know, or an SSH public key
Okay.
that you happen to know.
all right.
Sorry, I wanted to say something different actually, which is
Before you go to that, I want to just think on this point. So what you are trying to say basically is that this authentication happens. So this authentication is the main point that you are highlighting. Is this correct? That this is the property that you need from the underlying secure channel, that it provides you authentication of the entity of the other endpoint. Is it a good summary of what you were saying?
I think so, yes. So the thing is, yes, I can exchange attestation messages, but if I don't do that over an authenticated channel, then I don't know who I am exchanging with and am being forwarded and whatnot.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Thanks.
I
Now your question.
understand this to be the entire point of your work, Osama, that you actually can link the authentication on the, like, let's say, web PKI layer to the attestation, which is like the physical hardware.
Right. Sure. I just wanted to make sense of the authentication, because I mean, authentication could mean different things to different people. So in this sense,
sure.
it would mean that the server, any channel, any, let's say what you're trying to say is that any communication protocol which provides you authentication of the endpoint and it provides you some exporting mechanism would fit. Whatever that protocol X is, it doesn't matter whether it's TLS, it's noise, or whatever. We need the property of authentication and that it can give some exporter keys at some higher layer, right?
That's my intuition, yes. I would hope that cryptographers and formal verification that proves that.
Sure, right. That's the whole point of the project, to do it proof and to better understand. So hopefully the SIG will do that. So of course I haven't done it yet. So
would it be reasonable to think that in like this sort of scenario, there's two qualities to the communication? One is, who you're talking to, who's the authenticated entity, the authenticated entity, and the other is what is the qualities of their environment. So that's what we typically use, or I think most prevalently use attestation for, describing, the attested entity, the authenticated entity as X is running in a tested environment Y, which has these TEE measured qualities. It seems like you can do it seems like it's possible to do the authentication using via the attested information, right? You could, for example, if I'm using an SGX TEE, where very specific code is built and running in it, then that, and if my authentication is, that code versus a running instance of that code, then I could consider authentication being done with the attestation evidence. I think as I understand the world, that's the authentication happens all the time now. The whole world's kind of built this way, and it's not done with attestation. So it's natural, I think, all the tooling's there to do authentication separate from attestation, and then kind of ask the attestation question of, now that I have this authenticated entity, can you tell me some guaranteed properties about where it might be running some code or maybe living? That's what's making sense in my head, but what you're saying I think I'm getting it. The one lingering question is, does the model need to account for authentication perhaps happening not separate, but as part of the attestation flow?
Okay, first I'm trying to summarize what all of the things that you said. So you are trying to say that we are trying to separate out authentication versus attestation, which is correct, and I agree with that. So the bottom layer or the TLS protocol layer provides you that authentication, and then attestation happens over that established channel. That's correct. What we are proposing, not the intra-handshake one, so in the proposed project. And now I'm trying to understand your question that you posed. Can you say?
Is it possible, and are there scenarios that may choose to do the authentication step using attestation evidence, right? So and if so, then how does that affect the models? Does that mean, there's still two steps, but they're just kind of separate attestation flows. Attestation evidence A, addresses the authentication, and attestation flow B addresses the additional qualities we're looking for to establish this secure channel or something. I'm just asking questions. I don't, like I say,
Okay.
fully understand all the details of what.
So, let me try to rephrase what I understood. So what you are trying to say is, when I need to do authentication via attestation rather than two separately, what would happen, or how would that happen? Is it your question? Is it a good summary of?
I think I might state it as my belief, perhaps wrong, but my belief is they may be few and far between, but there are circumstances where people will or will want to do authentication using what we think of as leveraging attestation evidence, TE measured evidence, etc. And in those circumstances, if that's true,
No,
is
I completely am very against that. So the thing there is, if you don't do authentication and do attestation alone, the whole idea of our paper for this identity crisis, the other project, was that if you don't do authentication, you don't know where in the world that is running. That may be secure or that may not be secure. So you are trusting essentially everyone in the world, wherever that can go to. And the TEs don't provide you that guarantee. Basically, the physical attacks are out of scope of all the TEs. I'm not naming anyone here. Of all the TEs, that is out of scope, at least at this point in time. And that's not going to change very rapidly, because after these TE dot fail, TE wiretap dot fail, bad RAM, the vendors have given the statement, hey, that is out of scope. We don't care. Just go and find something. And that's not the way the community should work. And the only way to protect it at the protocol level is to say, we can't do that kind of thing that you are suggesting, just to do attestation rather than authentication, unless that problem is solved. So instead of trying, so in the attempt of trying to remove the CSP from the TCP, what you eventually end up with is that you still have that CSP in the TCP, and you add the whole of the world inside that TCP, which is something really bad. I don't see any use of that.
Let me try to express it another way.
Sure.
Imagine that my notion of authentication is the party that I am trying to authenticate, I expect them to have knowledge of a private key. And the way that they prove knowledge of the private key is they send me attestation evidence. They use attestation evidence to prove knowledge of the private key by signing something in there using the private key and the runtime data, or in the report, linking to the report data field, like in the TE measurement, something like that. How would that like fit in with this, right? If the authentication step just mechanically under the covers is accomplished via measurements and attestation evidence proving some knowledge of whatever the qualities, perhaps ownership of a private key, that that's what determines the authentication. And it's just, and
maybe let me give you a simple answer rather than going into a long debate. So, I mean, these attacks are practical, these have been shown, but what if, for example, theoretically, if probably you have a use case where you really need no authentication, just don't do the steps where this, the certificate was verified, and the certificate verify message was verified, the finished thing message was verified, the HMAC was checked. By doing post handshake does not do any limitation on doing that. So it's just a policy that you could say, I only want attestation for your specific use case, whichever you are trying to explain. You could still do that. But by design, it does not.
I would say logically, the use case is still, I want to authenticate what's there, and then I want to attest that what is there is running in an attested environment that has the qualities I want. And
so then
they could.
If you
still need both things, right? I need to know who's there, and I need to know the qualities of their environment.
So if you need both, then this is the solution that we provide you, like the post handshake, do TLS and then do attestation on top. So I don't see what difference are you suggesting? So this slide is not showing.
All I'm saying is except I think perhaps for degenerate cases, there's two things going on, I think, at a high level. One is authentication, what is the party on the other end, and then there's like attesting to some qualities for their environment, and whether how that happens mechanically, whether TE measured attestation evidence is used or not, pre-handshake, post-handshake, it still happens.
Can I throw something in there, Greg? Yeah. For like just to make it more concrete, for like if I understand you correctly, and I think I'm with you if that understanding is correct, something like the finished message from the server contains a hash of all the messages in the session it sent and received as a proof that it was the one, or vouching that it was the one owning the key on the server side. Right? Is that something along the lines of what you expect, or what you think of?
It may be. I am unfortunately for you all. I'm only understanding this at kind of the high conceptual high level.
Yeah, but that's why I would just say like some messages. Like I don't care like what message, we can figure that out. But like just as a sort of look, I vouch for the statement that I as a server did this handshake, and this hash is now signed by the TE, stating that this handshake was done by the TE itself, and it's now on the client's job to make sure that after starting this TLS session, you also make sure that you trust this hash, like signed statement coming from the tester, the TE in this case, right? And like then I would agree with you. It's like it would be totally fine in my books as well to do it like this. And if we embed this into TLS or do it after, doesn't matter from my security perspective, I think.
Right. So one thing I would like to add is that if you have a use case which needs only one-time attestation, for example, what you can do is do that immediately after establishing the connection. So doing it post doesn't limit any possible use case. So you could have that you just establish the connection, millisecond after that, start that attestation round. So it doesn't matter at all. I mean, it's not limiting in terms of use cases per se.
I think I'm going back to what Marcus, I think, said, which was the qualities of what the post handshake stuff depends upon in the channel is authentication. And my one-liner is, what if by design I intend to do authentication using attestation evidence? Does that mean that the qualities of the channel before is attestation enlightened? Or does that mean that from the model's perspective, I'm doing something hidden? I am doing the authentication step in part of the model that it doesn't assume is where authentication is happening. That's I think the crux of my question.
Okay, so maybe to make it short because we are running out of time again. So these discussions are all very interesting. So we can follow up on the list. What I would suggest you is to give me, as I mentioned here, like these are not the use cases that I have cooked up. I would like to know one concrete use case because what you are suggesting is of course, it can be taken up afterwards as well, after the project is, let's say, adopted. But if you are really concerned about this use case and you claim that is a real use case, please provide something which gives me some guarantee and I can show in the seat working group that this is some real use case. We need to account for this, or that's what I would demand. So to put some weight into it, so you need to probably show something that it's just not in your head, it's something real.
Yeah, I think in my head is ensuring, I don't know if and when those will become, out there in the wild, but understanding if and when that happens, the impact of the work done here, understanding that is the impact would be like nothing. It's like the work still stands, and it's be applicable, be an extension to kind of do the other flows. That's kind of what I would hope would be the thinking now, or saying that's not a real future.
I mean, even if it becomes real, so we can adapt to that. I think it's not going to be, the project is not going to be finished within a day. It would take quite some. Yeah.
Usama, Greg, let's probably move this discussion offline or to next one.
Okay,
we
sure.
have a minute
Sure.
left. We still have two hands.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks, Greg. So Marcus, I think you're the next hand.
I'm putting my remark in writing. So Giri, please go ahead.
Yeah, okay, good. No, this is just really quick. Osama, last week we clarified during the seat interim. I did it on the comments side, so you may have missed it. Attestation for the seat charter includes attestation results. Are you planning to extend this analysis to show relay attacks on attestation results? Because I'm not able to intuitively figure out how that would work.
Right. So currently I have analysis only for evidence, but yes, the scope will include the attestation results. The scope is primarily going to be the same as the seat working group charter, which is to say it will have the attestation results as well as the evidence, both taken into account.
Okay,
So
thank you. I'll let you go to Marcus's question.
Okay, so
I just had a remark, put it in chat right now. I just want to say that there are post-handshake protocols which would also benefit from a standardized approach like Usama is suggesting.
So I would
Thanks,
like
Mark.
to ask very quickly to the chairs, like, if you could vote. I think there has been no criticism, and I believe that the questions are clarified. I can work with Greg to clarify whatever is left. So if
Yeah,
you
it
could,
sounds like we need to take this to the TAC for official approval, right?
sure. I would like to know like when that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think the question for the chairs is, are you happy that we should take this to the TAC? There's been enough discussion and there's general consensus that this is worth taking forward. I think what I'm hearing is that is probably the case. If so, that can just be sent as an email to the TAC, and that can happen pretty much immediately if the chairs are happy.
Mike, I don't think for other projects we went through the TAC, and it was a chair voting that determined whether the project was accepted or not.
Okay, I mean, it depends exactly what's required. If there's any budgetary requirement, I think it does require TAC approval.
Not sure whether there's a budget. At least there were no requests in the issue.
Okay, in which case
No.
we're probably okay then.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
misunderstood.
From my side, currently there are no budget requirements. When there is some traveling requirement, I will reach out to the SIG.
That sounds sensible then. I think then it's really up to the chairs. If the chairs feel there is consensus, then we can probably proceed, be my guess.
So I would quickly like to know the opinion of the chairs before closing this call, if they can quickly just say if they are happy with it.
I have questions about scoping, right, which I wasn't able to air this time because there was mostly technical discussion, but I will add my notes to the issue, and we can continue discussion there.
Okay, but do you have any concerns other than the scope itself?
For now, no.
Okay, Greg?
I need to read it one more time, but in general,
Sure.
it's sounding pretty reasonable.
Okay, thanks. Jim?
It seems Jane probably have left already. And I think Osama sounds like the mostly okay with the idea. Let's probably move this to email to follow up since we're already over time. Anything else you want to add?
No, I would just like it to be done like let's say within a week or so, not to delay it too long. That would be nice. So that we can proceed with this and to whatever your questions are, whatever someone has around scope or something. So please put it in so we can proceed with this work. Thanks.
Okay, sounds good. Let's follow up with emails as soon as possible on this.
Cool. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
We already over time. Thanks, everyone.
Cool. Bye.
Okay, everybody.